Welcome back, everybody. I'm Miss Delta 9, and today I want to have a very honest conversation with you about the seasons of awakening and what this journey has truly been teaching me. Not the polished version, not the spiritual influencer version, not the love and light version, the real version. Because awakening is not just one experience. It's not one breakthrough. It's not one meditation. It unfolds in seasons, and every season asks something different of us. Some seasons strip us. Some seasons isolate us. Some seasons humble us, and some seasons heal us. And some seasons teach you how to finally stop running from yourself. So if you've been feeling confused, disconnected, emotionally raw, or deeply sensitively exhausted, or like your entire inner world is changing, you're not crazy. You may simply be moving into another season of awakening. And today, I want to talk about what these seasons look like for me, what they taught me, and maybe help you understand what your own soul might be trying to teach you at this time. So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's talk. The first season of awakening for me was the cracking open. And honestly, I didn't even know that's what it was at the time. Most people think awakening begins with peace. Mine began with a complete collapse. Everything I thought I was started falling apart. My identity, the conditioning, the coping mechanisms, the distractions, the beliefs, the masks. It was all like itself reached into my chest and just said, you cannot continue living asleep anymore. And awakening doesn't ask for permission. That's something no one tells you. People romanticize spiritual awakening, but many awakenings begin through suffering, through loss, trauma, illness, burnout, heartbreak, existential crisis even, because pain has a way of interrupting unconsciousness, and suddenly you begin questioning everything. Who am I? Why am I suffering? Why do I feel disconnected? Why does life I built no longer fit for me? The first season felt terrifying to me because the ego thought survival means staying familiar, even if the familiar is hurting you. And the awakening began when the false cells started dissolving, and that's why so many people experience anxiety during awakenings, or emotional flooding, maybe grief or confusion. Our nervous system is trying to reorganize around truth instead of survival, and that changes everything. Then came the dark night of the soul, another season. This is where many people think they're failing spiritually, and when actually something sacred is going on. The dark night of the soul isn't punishment, it's purification. It's when the external world stops satisfying you, but the inner peace hasn't stabilized you quite yet. So you feel suspended between two worlds. You stop resonating with old conversations, old environments, old identities, and sometimes even old relationships, and loneliness becomes a teacher. I remember periods where I felt completely disconnected from everything familiar, and at first I resisted it because humans are wired for attachment. But eventually I realized the silence was not empty, it was revealing something. Awakening stripped away the noise so I could finally hear myself. And sometimes that silence imposed pain. I spent my entire life outrunning unprocessed grief, childhood wounds, suppressed emotions, trauma responses, fear of abandonment, fear of worthlessness. Awakening brings it all to the surface, not to destroy us, but to free us. And in this, it's real important. Healing is not becoming someone new. Healing is removing what you we're never supposed to carry in the first place. So the ego fights back at this point. Another season I experienced, I was realizing how strong the ego actually was. And I'm not talking about ignorance. The ego is simply the constructed identity, the psychological self, the survival self. And when the awakening begins, the ego fights for control. That's why people often swing between clarity and fear. One day you feel deeply connected, the next you feel consumed by thought again. That's normal. The ego survives through identification. Identification with thought, identification with pain, identification with roles, identification with stories. And awakening slowly teaches you to observe the mind instead of becoming it. That changed my life. Realizing I am aware of the thought, therefore I cannot be that thought. The awareness created space, and in that space, that healing began. Not because life became imperfect, but because I stopped drowning inside every emotion and every mental story. I began witnessing instead of reacting. And that, my friend, takes practice, lots of practice. So the seasons of isolation then came, and that's one of the hardest seasons for me, isolation. And I think many awakened people experience this because once your inner world changes, your outer world often has to reorganize itself as well. So some friendships fell away, conversations stopped resonating, environments became energetically exhausting, and at first it feels heartbreaking, but eventually I realized something powerful. Isolation was teaching me how to become whole within myself, not dependent on validation, not dependent on distraction, not dependent on constant noise. For the first time in my life, I had to sit with myself fully, and that can be very terrifying. Because when the distractions disappear, you finally meet the unresolved parts of yourself, but you also meet your soul there. You meet your intuition there. Your stillness is met there. You meet presence there, and presence changes everything because suffering multiplies in unconscious resistance, but presence dissolves resistance. So I went into the last phase, I think the body remembers. One thing awakening taught me was that I never expected this, how deeply the body holds experiences. The body remembers trauma, the body remembers fear, the body remembers survival. And many people try to spiritually bypass by healing only by focusing on the mind. But awakening is embodied. You cannot think your way into peace while your nervous system still feels unsafe. So another season of awakening becomes the nervous system healing, learning safety, learning regulation, learning rest, learning stillness. And honestly, this was very humbling for me because I realized how long I had lived in survival mode without even knowing it. Constantly on hypervigilant state, constantly thinking, constantly doing, with constant pressure. Awakening finally made me slow down enough to see it, and healing began. I stopped fighting my body and started listening to it, and that changed everything. The season of surrender is eventually awakening brought me into the season of that, surrendering. And surrender is misunderstood. It's not giving up. Surrender is releasing resistance to what already is. It's trusting life enough to stop forcing every outcome. And that's difficult for humans because control feels safe. But awakening taught and teaches me that something quite profound. Much of our suffering comes from arguing with reality, wanting this moment to be different, wanting people to behave differently, wanting ourselves to already be healed. But peace began entering my life when I stopped fighting the present moment. Not passivity, not weakness, presence. Because when you're fully met in this moment, something inside softens. And from that softness, clarity emerges. So, what has awakening truly been teaching me? It's teaching me that peace is not found through becoming more. It's found through returning to what you already are beneath conditioning. It's teaching me that awareness changes suffering. It teaches me that healing is nonlinear. It teaches me compassion, not just for others, but for myself. It teaches me the presence is more powerful than overthinking. It teaches me that silence can heal. It's teaching me that the soul grows in seasons just like nature outside does. Some seasons we bloom, some seasons we die, some seasons we rest, and all of them matter. I no longer believe awakening is about becoming spiritually superior. I think awakening is becoming deeply humanly, consciously, and feeling life fully, experiencing reality honestly, and remaining present throughout it all. That's the real work, not escaping humanity, but embodying awareness within it. So, if you're in a different season right now, if you feel lost or emotionally exhausted, isolated, confused, or like life is stripping everything away from you, please understand sometimes awakening looks like falling apart before coming home to yourself. And maybe this season is not breaking you, maybe it's revealing you. So I want to thank you for sitting with me today. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for allowing me to share this journey honestly with you. And if this video resonates with you, please leave a comment, share, and hit that thumbs up. I would really so appreciate it. I love that you share your time with me. What seasons of awakening are currently moving through you? Leave that down in the comment section. Let's begin a conversation. Namaste.